So, good evening and good morning also to our wonderful panel tonight, and also to all our participants who are joining us with a huge crowd. So thank you very much. And also, I think what is super exciting tonight is that we are all connected from different places around the world. So I have to say that we are really bringing an interesting international appeal tonight at the CREA. So before I introduce the topic of tonight, I really would like to say, first of all, hello to our panelists. I'd like to introduce each of them and also thank them again for being with us tonight. So Sonia Ester Soltani, Chief
Hello.
There you are, Chief Editor-in-Chief at Rappaport Magazine. And tonight you are in Tel Aviv, right?
Yes.
So
I'm home.
Great. Ida Farber in Geneva, Director at Farber Collection, and as she likes to describe herself, treasure hunter. Ida, you're there?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, now we see you. Thank you. Preeta Agarwal from India tonight. So jewelry specialist, journalist, and influencer. Then we have Melissa Wolfgang, Director at Gollet, Fils and Stahl.
Hi.
Here is our Melissa, and Linda Koslov Turner in the US, owner and president at Christine Marguerite Design, and editor of 100 Women in Jewelry. Right, so the webinar tonight will be focused on the topic women in jewelry. So the reason being that women have a long-standing history with jewelry, being designers, collectors, specialists, and above all, let me say consumers, right? All love jewelry. So we are all related by the same passion and love and interest, of course. So there are many women working in the industry, making their mark and contributing in various ways to make it a successful and solid business model. So tonight, each of our guest speakers have a highly interesting experience and a story to share, proving how much, let me call it, feminine business acumen helped them to create important milestones in their career. On top of it, women in jewelry have been portrayed in many major publications. So again, tonight we will discover through which angles each of these women has been contributing to the field of jewelry as such. But most importantly, women in jewelry also mean networking, supporting and sharing. And this was just amazing, you know, 10 minutes ago while we were talking, you know, this bond that we were immediately able to create, even though sometimes we don't know each other kind of personally, but even via Zoom, we were immediately able to create this interesting bond and relationship. So I think that strengthening this bond will be extremely important for the challenges lying ahead in our jewelry industry. And I think that, again, the proof of it is really the enthusiastic participation of all our guests tonight, who really accepted, you know, my invitation and really also shared with me the passion for jewelry, the wish to network, to exchange, and also to further nourish our jewelry community. So thank you very much to all our participants to be with us tonight. And I will be starting now with our first guest, Sonia Ester Soltani. So Sonia, you are editor-in-chief at Rappaport. You manage the monthly print magazine. You also manage the Jewelry Connoisseur by Rappaport online blog. You are also hosting different podcasts on antique and vintage jewelry. You really have, I think, a privileged perspective from an editorial point of view and on the ways feminine outlook can improve the jewelry business. So my first question to you would be, if you could share with the audience tonight, the way women have been represented so far in the editorial industry, what role they've been playing, and in which way you would be portraying, you know, the women universe from your perspective.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Donatella, for this introduction. So the way women have been portrayed in jewelry is what actually we try to do is to give our readers a better understanding of what women want. And because I think, you know, when we say women in the jewelry industry, the most important women are the end consumers. They are the clients. They are the people who are buying jewelry, who are desiring jewelry. And it feels like they haven't been always listened to or heard or even seen. And this is changing. This is the great thing. So I have a few slides with being the editor here. I have a few stats and quotes to share with you. So I hope I'm going to do that right. I'm going to share my screen here. Sorry about that. I'm doing the presentation. Please tell me if it's correct with everyone. If
yes, yes. Just put it on presentation mode and we see it perfectly. Thank you.
Is it? No, sorry. Oops. Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you. Sorry for that. So I'm going to start with the hard facts. That 91% of women feel that advertisers, and this is not going well. I'm sorry. How do I? Here we go.
Yeah.
You see the screen properly?
You just need to click back to presentation. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. Apologies about that.
Don't worry.
So here we go. So some 91% of women feel that advertisers and stores don't connect with them. That's what Stephanie Holland said at the Plum Club. She's the founder of She Economy, which is dedicated to women women in business and women in the economic situations. And women have said they don't see many women working in traditional fine jewelry stores. They don't see much product variety and they find stores intimidating. So, and some of them actually find stores boring. That's something that comes a lot when we speak to people. And interestingly, nearly 75% of women are willing to walk away if brands don't listen to them. So that's something we should be extremely worried about. And as a provider of information to the industry, that's something we really try to push as much as possible. You have to listen to women and you have to, we're talking about the consumers here. I'm not going to talk about the women in industry. I'm just talking about the end consumer. And what we see, which is encouraging for me, and I think for a lot of people, I'm sure in this chat, is that the big companies, the De Beers of this world, are finally embracing a new vision of women. They're showing a young millennial like Indira Scott. They're promoting different things. They're finally hearing and listening and leaving the old boys club a bit behind in a representation of women. So that's exciting because we need to listen to our women because they actually certainly the most exciting consumers and the most valuable because they're the one who can go and buy jewelry just because or just to treat themselves. That's a survey from MVI Marketing Survey. It's not about a trophy, it's not about status, it's just for the pleasure of owning a beautiful object and a model of self-expression and adornment. So we have this fantastic opportunity to actually seduce these women and to speak to them. And what they expect the jewelry industry to be is to be more relatable. How do we actually make them feel good? How do we understand what they want and how they can have a conversation, something where they meet? I love this idea of camaraderie. They want to feel part of, they need a good vibe, they need an empathy, they need also to feel like someone have their best interest in mind. It's not about selling you the most expensive piece, it's about selling you the piece that's right for you. And talking about sales, they don't want as much pressure. They don't want the hard sell. They're not there to have like, buy me. It's about seduction. It's about enticing. It's about a history. It's about something just capturing the imagination, really. And then if you listen well to this woman, if you offer her something that she's going to want to wear, you're already half of the journey there. It helps, obviously, if they see it being modeled. That's where the part of having more women in retail space is so important. And there's something that I know it's a bit abstract and I'm still going to use it, but it's intuition. And I think that's something that we always attribute to women. I don't think it's just a preserve of women, but there's definitely something about intuition and conversation that can happen because you understood what the other woman might want, but without projecting yourself, obviously. But I think this part of intuition is very important. And what's so important for us, and that's what we show in our magazine, in our reporting, in our news, we want to know what the next generation wants, because without them, we're going to close shop, all of us. We don't going to exist if we don't listen to these women. So I just took an example, one feature that we did this year. In a June issue, we were supposed to go to JCK and we thought that would be a nice conversation starter, which unfortunately didn't happen. But we asked 3 young American women, what do you think about diamonds? And so we wanted the views from the Gen Z, because they are the ones who are going to challenge us. They're already challenging us and they're already pushing us to present a different version of the jewelry industry. So we have these 3 fantastic young women. They are advocates for mental health, well-being, for more women in the scientific field. They come from different backgrounds, but they all have a very strong voice and very strong opinions about their values. And they shared some of them with us. The article is on diamonds.net, but I just took a few quotes that I think are important about what women want. Lauren said something, people of my generation care about where things come from. If we buy a chicken from the store, we can look at the label to see where it was reared, make sure it had a cage-free life, and check for certification that it's been treated humanly. It's worrying that we can't do the same for a mined diamond. Oops, that is quite a challenging point. When you send, that's something that we want to bring, and I think we want our readers, we don't want to make our readers feel uncomfortable, obviously, but we want to make them challenge and to say, this woman who actually likes diamond, she needs to be told. She wants the provenance. She wants to trust. She wants the story of diamonds do good, but an authentic story. Ina Bupalan from Nebraska, she said, if these companies and the jewelers that use their products want to appeal to Gen Z, then don't just market to us using traditional heteronormative images of a man proposing to a woman with a diamond ring. Instead, focus on what really matters to us, social and environmental impact, and include our voice in your marketing conversations. Speak with us rather than at us. I think Ina is summing up the situation for a lot of women, and what a lot of women have felt when they went to stores where the salesperson might have spoken to the man because he was the one with the wallet, with forgetting the woman. And then we're talking about something bigger then. It's not even about just the man and woman situation. It's about who you are, where you come from, what your needs are. And Sabria Saparo from California, she had this idea, and that she felt like there were only 2 extremes. There's the flashy jewelry, and there's nothing to speak to her. And she's actually a fashion blogger. So she said she would like diamond jewelers change their approach, showcasing more affordable items in a way that feels more real. They might engage better with people of my generation. You feel this desire for authenticity, for transparency, for environmental responsibility. This year, I think we've seen there's a need for accountability in everything we do, about the position we take and the values we share. So this is the views from young women that are not yet high spenders. Actually, most of them, and I think that was something we wanted to present from an editorial perspective to our readers, that are diamond dealers, retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, designers. These three young women, Lauren, Ina, and Sabria, were more interested in lab-grown diamonds than in mined diamonds. But that's a conversation for another day. But that's something we need to also have in mind when we talk about diamonds and jewelry. And I think that's something that these women, they have a very true voice. They had no, we asked them very genuinely, and they replied, they shared their times and their insights. And I think that's important to always think of the end consumer and what we create as a society through our work. And at the other end of the spectrum, that's something I wanted to share with you, because I feel like the high end has been better at embracing the female self-purchaser. All the estate dealers, Donatella, you mentioned the podcast, but everyone I spoke to, I'm going to just give you a few names, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, but Ben Maclow, Rick Schatz, Tina Smith, dealers in America that I spoke to, they said most of their clients are women. And women, obviously with a high disposable income, but women who are inquisitive, who ask the same questions. They want a story, and they don't go for the traditional, they go for something different. And I think the high end is maybe, has already embraced this, because you have fantastic female designers, you have estate dealers who are already doing a job of education and sharing stories with their audience and their potential clients. And I would like to finish with this quote, because as well as I think how we impact everything is the women who buy are impacting obviously the way we sell, impacting the way we design, and it's like a whole chain that is being changed when women say what they want. And there's this book that's just been released in the US, was released this month by Melanie Grant, called Coveted, which is first a fantastic read, but Melanie has also a chapter about feminism and how women and the role of women has impacted on jewelry design, which is also bringing us to a bigger topic and a bigger conversation. But I interviewed Melanie for the magazine, and she shared this, which I'm going to share with you now. If a woman is going to spend, as I said, we're talking about the high-end, high jewelry. If a woman is going to spend 150,000, 200,000, she's often going to buy something which is just to please her. Sometimes it's bolder, it's bigger, it's a bit stranger, it's more unusual. And I think it symbolizes a journey that woman has had to take and had to fight to get where she is and stay there. What women are asking for is slightly strange, and that has inspired other women to get into jewelry and to make this different style of jewelry, which they often identify with a lot as well. So what's absolutely wonderful is that there's such a massive potential for our industry to cater to this consumer who is changing, evolving, and as I said, who has for a long time not been listened to and not been heard, and just be seen as the wearer of something that maybe she wasn't completely in love with. And I feel this is this desire that we try to communicate, that, you know, everyone in the industry that's passionate about industry has this passion, this enthusiasm. And I feel like there's a meeting of mind that needs to happen between this, what we offer as an industry, and the people who are enjoying the products of our industry.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Super, super interesting insight. I can already see a few comments popping up, so I'm sure we will have time to also discuss later, but it was very interesting to give us this mirror, you know, this view about the way, again, we should be working, you know, when it comes to communication for women, the new generation. Also, you touched upon the subject of real diamonds, laboratory diamonds. So there are many, many interesting insights that you were able to share with us. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. And thank you so much, Donatella, for giving me this opportunity.
No, no, absolutely. And we'll get, back afterwards to you, because I'm sure there are also many questions that will be arising. So thank you. And then Ida, director at Farber Collection, but above all, I love the way you describe yourself, treasure hunter. You joined the family business after being and doing other professional experiences in Paris, in the fashion industries. You've been, working in different activities before you decided to join the family business. If I'm not mistaken, you are now the first woman to be in the setup, in the organization. So for our audience tonight, I really would like you to share with us your experience being, the first woman at Farber Collection family business, and in which way you are also contributing today to the evolution of the company.
Hello. Thank you, Donatella, for inviting me. Yeah, I am the first woman in the fourth generation. My grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and then me. So it's probably an evolution also, I would say, of our times. And I started in different businesses before joining the company. I first was a seamstresser in Paris, working at Saint Laurent, making sur-mesure tailoring and haute couture. And it's more, I didn't really want to join the business in the first place. It was more by accident that I joined it. Quite funnily, actually, it was the strikes in Paris in 1995 that made me join the business, because I had loads of time being not very occupied. So my father asked me to come and help several times. And I actually, first of all, discovered what he was really doing. And I thought, wow, it's actually a beautiful business. Then I tried several different options. I worked in a shop. I worked at Sotheby's for a year. I've been cutting stones for not very long time, but I tried it before deciding that I really liked actually the dealer side of the business, the treasure hunting and the traveling. I think it's incredible when you go on a travel and you go and see your customer, you never really know what you're going to find. Sometimes you find nothing. And sometimes you find incredible things. Sometimes you find big things, sometimes smaller things. But it's a real treasure hunt. And it's not always easy to buy the treasures we find. So I observed a lot when I started. I observed a lot my father and my colleague Alberto, whom I traveled a lot with. So I had that chance to observe people who were in the business already since a long time. And I think probably I looked at it a little bit in a different way. Being a woman was always when I see the jewelry, for example, with the piece of jewelry, I always think, would I wear it? I don't think, when my Alberto or my father, they buy a piece of jewelry, they think it's beautiful. They reckon the value. But I always think, oh, this I really love, because I can see it on me, or I can see it on different women, and it gives me a sort of joy. So I look at it from a value point of view, but then if it really speaks to me and I can really, imagine, wow, I can really see this woman wearing it, probably my stomach helps me buying. It's that stomach feeling that helps me to go and buy. And when I buy stones or diamonds or colored stones or pearls, I immediately think, you know, how could we mount it? What kind of woman would wear it? Which kind of piece of jewelry it will end? I probably see it from an end consumer point of view, instead of a purely value and dealing. And I think that maybe makes a difference. And also probably the fact that I've worked in fashion. So I've also studied quite a lot of fashion books, and jewelry being a lot related to jewelry throughout times. I can connect pieces to clothes. So that I think was something different from me and the other members of the team. And I think also what probably is different, I always look things in an aesthetic way. You know, when we display the windows, when I first arrived, the first thing I tried to do is always to have neat windows, clean windows, everything arranged properly, instead of just wheeling. And so that probably was also something a little bit different. And yeah, and I think all the internet, all the Instagram, the image has become a very strong social factor nowadays. And probably jewelry was a social statement at one point. And nowadays, it's more a personality statement. It means if I wear this, it's a statement. You know, some political women, they wear jewelry and they transmit a message with the brooch they're wearing. If they wear I don't know how you say in English, une colombe,
a dove.
A dove, thank you. If they wear a dove, it's a peace message. If they wear an arrow, it's a war message. So I find this super interesting, how you can actually communicate with jewelry. And as a woman, you can do this. And it's it's interesting. That's something probably that is very new in jewelry. I wear this because it is different if I wear this or a big diamond brooch. It's a different statement. So I think that's something that has also quite changed a lot. Yeah, and also to be probably, but I must say, in our dealer business, I think we are quite fortunate. I don't know if Melissa will agree with me, but I think it's an incredible band of women. I know, you know, in other businesses, some women can be quite tough, and it can be quite difficult. I must admit that I find that in our business, some women are tough, some women are strong, and we don't, you know, you have preferences with some, but I generally find that they're quite extraordinary women in our business that I have been able to meet throughout the years. They have achieved incredible things, but not only in the 10 or 20 past years, also in the, you know, in the 30, 40 or 100 past years, there's a lot of women appearing in the jewelry world, quite powerful ones that have, you know, remained designers, jewelers, and it can be a bit challenging sometimes to be a woman in certain situation, probably with maybe, but I think in most of the situation, it's maybe also an advantage if you know. So I think, yeah, that's probably the difference. And I work in a team with only men. I have my father, I have my brother, I have Alberto and Philippe around me since 30 years. And yeah, I think being a woman in the middle of all this, I always probably try to see things from a different angle than them, and it makes a nice coalition. I think it would be different if there would be a fifth man or sixth man. It gives it a different point of view. And also when we exchange ideas, I probably do it in a different way, which doesn't mean it's a softer way. It's just different, because I think just women and men are different, and so we have different sensibilities, and it's a business where you can really express them. So that was yeah.
Thank you, Ida. And you know, you've given us a lot of interesting ways to look at our women contribution when it comes to the jewelry business and the industry. It's, you know, very interesting, your statement when you go treasure hunting. Would I wear it? It's also the stomach feel that,
yes,
that we're mentioning, which is super interesting, and again relates to the idea of intuition that we were talking about. Also super interesting, you know, the role of jewelry today, you know, in our lives, making like a statement. And also, you know, the fact that our jewelry business industry is, you call it a bundle, right?
Yeah.
You're right. It's, I think we you know, we all are extraordinarily solid entrepreneur, but at the same time, I think we have a soft way to talk to each other, which I think it's somehow also a winning element in our industry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you know, we can also discuss further about all that, but really thank you for giving us so many insights, and also for sharing with us the way, you know, you make it differently in your everyday business life at Farber Collection, and also, I guess, the special touch that you have in putting together, you know, your colleagues and working ahead. So thank you.
Thank you, Donatella.
Thank you. And now I'd like to have Preeta Agarwal. So Preeta, in New Delhi tonight, you also have an extraordinary career in the jewelry field. You are a jewelry specialist, you are a journalist, influencer. Your blog is a winning award blog, and the name is Bejeweled Finds. You are a contributor to many different magazines. You have an amazing experience in your country, but also internationally. So I think it's going to be very interesting for our audience tonight if you could share, you know, with us a little bit more about the Indian jewelry industry, how you made your path through, and the way you were really able to establish yourself as a professional, but also to establish your business and your work.
Thank you, Donatella, for inviting me, and to CREA for inviting me for this talk. And for me, I don't come from a jewelry background, so there's nobody remotely in the jewelry business in my family. And for me to sit up one day and say, okay, I want to be a jewelry designer, was quite a shock to my family, because unlike everybody else, they thought that I would get into a doctorate or something more scientific. And one fine day, I just told my mother that, you know, listen, I want to be a jewelry designer. And she's like, okay, what is that? What does a jewelry designer do? Because 15 years ago, or maybe like 18 years ago, in India, there was no concept of being a jewelry designer, because you knew there were jewelers, but there was no jewelry designer per se. So I did have a lot of relatives telling me that, you know, what will you do? What is the job that you will get after graduating as a jewelry designer. But my immediate family kind of somewhat supported me, and they said, okay, you do whatever you wish to do, and we are there to back you up. So I went to a college called National Institute of Fashion Technology. I did my jewelry designing from there. I graduated with brilliant scores. I got a college placement. Everything was happy. And for a person who does not come from a jewelry background, this was like a dream come true. You know, you get good scores, you've done what you wanted to learn out of college, and you get one of the finest brands across India to place you as your first job. And after a year, I realized that everything was not rosy. I did not enjoy designing jewelry. So after everything that happened, I realized that I don't enjoy designing jewelry. I love the product jewelry. That really enchants me. But I don't like drawing or, you know, sketching it. I was more found in the factory, in the manufacturing setup. I was helping everybody do their technicals and side views, and they would find me in the photography section. If somebody was doing a photo shoot, I would be there. So they would just not find me on my desk. And eventually I came to Delhi, and my first job was in Bengaluru. I came back to Delhi, and I found a job in a company which was more like a boutique style. And they had these private clients who would come up with crazy concepts they wanted. Those would interest me, and I would always do those. And in the rest of the time, I started participating in events. I used to organize events, advertising, PR, communication, writing for them. I would do anything that would keep me away from my desk to design jewelry. But I think that's when I realized that I love the product, but maybe not designing. And all that education that I had as a designer helped me to sell this jewelry in a unique way. I would come up with innovative concepts of photography because I relate to the product as a woman. I would come up with innovative event ideas, how to engage the audience, how to romance this product so much that people just want to buy it the moment they see it. And all that came with the knowledge because I understood the product. I also appreciated the amount of effort which would have gone into manufacture it, because I'd done manufacturing myself. I had learned it during my college days. And all this gave me the confidence that yes, I don't need to design it, but I can do a lot more with the product around it. And all this romance around the product is what was missing in India. A lot of jewelers aspired to do that, but they didn't know who to go to. So internationally, they would see people with these gorgeous photo shoots and events, lavish events. But in India, they didn't find anybody who could help them do that. And that's where I kind of came in. I started writing for magazines. My first international story was for Maria Dolton for the Jewelry Editor way back in 2010. And that kind of helped me grow my networking because it was a London-based website and everybody, Indian jeweler, wanted to be on that website. And they kind of would come to me saying that, would you like to interview us? And that kind of, you know, grew my network in the industry, grew my reputation in the industry. And in the last 11 years, since my first story came out for the Jewelry Editor, since then it's been like an unstoppable journey, because I've written for various international magazines. Sonia is one of the editors that I write for Rappaport, and various others. I have written 5 coffee table books on jewelry. I have my own blog, which is an award-winning blog called Bejeweled Finds. And recently, in the last couple of years, I've realized that I like to work as a consultant. So that's why I started calling myself a jewelry specialist, because I didn't know one term that would define all the things that I did. And so I do consult a lot of brands now who somebody needs like a marketing strategy, somebody needs a social media strategy. There are various kind of things that I do. Having said that, this journey has not been very easy, because India as a country, the Indian jewelry industry as a industry was not very acceptable to women. in the beginning, like 10, 15, 12 years ago. I have heard things like, why would you expect such a huge salary? You're a woman, how much can you spend? I have been to manufacturing setups where there were no washrooms for ladies because it was an all men manufacturing setup. I have, so various things, like relatives would ask you, what would you do after graduating from a jewelry design college? So, women in India were thought that, you graduate, you learn, and then you get married. This is like a hobby. Designing is more like a hobby for women. But I am very proud to say that in the past 10 years, Indian jewelry has evolved so beautifully. And I am a product of that beautiful journey. Today, shows like IIJS Mumbai, which is like the largest jewelry show in India, where 10 years ago you would hardly spot women. Today, you see women who run their own companies, they have their own setups. You see people like me whose work is being respected, our opinions are being our opinions matter. And so it's been a beautiful journey. So yes, there are still some where, there are hiccups. There are some areas where you are, you kind of get into that struggle of being a woman. But I think perseverance and just hard work and making sure that whatever work that I did would get me respect, and I would not take a shortcut. I am more like a donkey who likes to work hard, and who I would just do all the things the hard way. But I think that's what's kind of paid off in the end. So yep, that's where I am today. I have my own company called Preeta Agarwal Workroom. I do crazy projects under it. I take women across the globe on jewelry tours, educational tours. So it's just a lot of things under one name.
Great. Well, thank you, Preeta. Thank you for sharing with us your journey in the jewelry industry. Super interesting also to hear, when it comes to India, the overall situation and the way you made it happen for your career. I loved what you mentioned, perseverance, hard work, working hard. These are, of course, the very important ingredients that all of us, I guess, we had to kind of put together to make our way through. And also, you mentioned the word respect, which is extremely important also to mention when you were mentioning about you walking around in this big jewelry fair. People respect you because of what you did, but also I think the way you showed, perseverance and hard work. So really, thank you very much for sharing this experience with us tonight. And I see already a lot of comments in the chat, so I'm sure afterwards we will have time to maybe discuss again with you and learn much more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Melissa Wolfgang is director at Gollet Fils and Stahl. Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, you are 6th generation, right? Gem and jewelry dealer at the family business. You are also an active member of various gemological associations, including the Association Suisse des Négociants en Pierres Précieuses, so precious stones, and the Swiss Gemological Institute. So I know that you also had quite a lot of experiences before joining the family business, right? So I think, the audience is super curious to know more about, your background, the way you did it, the way you integrated in the family business. And also, we'd like to know more about, a special networking project you're working on for women. I mean, we are curious to learn as much as we can about you.
Thank you, Donatella, for having me here. questions. I do agree with what Ida said, that so I don't forget to say this, we are a great group of women, and there are probably more of us than people realize. I think that people generally have a tendency to think that women are a minority in our industry, and I don't think that that's necessarily true. I don't know that I did a lot of things very differently in the industry than any of the other women in my generation or that came before or after me, but I definitely did it with my own personality. And I suppose anyone that knows me knows that there's plenty of that. You know, I grew up in the business, and like Ida, but I was very, you know, my father socialized in the business. I saw people in the business at dinners. I saw people on vacation. And so I think it was only natural that when I actually started working, people would come to the office or they would come to a show at our booth in Basel and they would say, "Hi, sweetie, is your dad around?" And, you know, I started working, I was 20 years old. So that was okay. It wasn't offensive, but it was difficult and frustrating to find my place in all of that. So I figured the only way to really find my place was to go somewhere that he wasn't. And that meant doing a lot of shows in America because he didn't do that. And I started doing shows in the States. I started doing Las Vegas and I started doing Miami. In fact, the first shows that I did were with Ida's brother. We would share a booth together. Actually, it was before he started. It was with Alberto and then Max. And I was really fortunate because I had a lot of people around me sort of watching over me from afar. And I had a very long leash from the office. And it allowed me to really create my own relationships and formulate my own opinions through my experience rather than listening to around the dinner table. And to be frank, some of my closest friends and best business relationships are the people that I met in those very early days in those shows. Because I worked really hard. I had a lot to prove. So to myself and to everybody else. So I think I really went out of my way to do a lot. But yes, I did have other experiences. Before that, I worked at De Gouzagono. I was a stone buyer. And before that, I worked at Christie's. And when I worked at Christie's, it's probably where I really learned how to work. I spent 2 years vacillating between the jewelry department and Francois Curiel's office. And if anyone knows Francois, you know that he works you hard. But it was a good thing. I mean, I learned how to be meticulous. I learned how to be conscientious. And I think most importantly, I learned that making mistakes happen and it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. You own them, you fix them, you move on. And I think that was probably one of the most crucial things that I learned in my young, because it teaches you a little bit of humility, but it also it allows you to be fearless, because if you're not ready to fail, you have no chance of succeeding. So the ability to put my failure aside and take my a little bit, because we all have a little bit of healthy ego, but to take a little bit of my ego outside of my fear of making mistakes, it really allowed me to move forward, because I wasn't afraid. And I just sort of, like Ida talked about her gut feelings, I never really sat down and thought, where do I want to be and what do I want to do? I just did what I felt. And that sounds impulsive, but it worked. It worked for me, and I listened to, my instinct, and I wasn't afraid to show up, and showing up is fundamental. That's how you get the job done, and it's how you learn. And I figured out that I thrive very far outside of my comfort zone, and that has gotten me into a lot of projects. Like Preeta mentioned, I agree, what did she say? That it's like being a mule. You just do the work, or a donkey, sorry. Just do the work and do the work and do the work and do the work. And I'm the same. And so I do the work, and unfortunately now there's less work because we're all sort of stuck at home and doing things differently. But in a moment of calm, I got myself involved in, you know, as you mentioned, Donatello, the Swiss Stone Dealers Association. And I'm on the ethics committee for that. And we did a lot of work there, and we developed a lot of codes of conduct, ethical charts, and that probably didn't exist 20, 30 years ago in our business, but now have become more important. And that was it was a steep learning curve and very interesting. And I co-founded an association for women in the jewelry business called the Glitterati. And that's also been a steep learning curve and a lot of fun. And it's, as Ida said, a great group of women, and always welcoming more, all walks of life of women in the industry. And I think the reason behind that, really what drove me, was thinking back to when I started. I was very lucky to have people around me that supported me, men and women, but I was lucky to have people that trusted me and who I could trust and who looked out for me and who believed in me before I knew how to believe in myself. And I think that everybody, every single person, male, female, no matter how old you are, needs that. Everybody needs someone to believe in them. So I co-founded this association that we work through mentorship and education. We're doing our first webinar next week with Vanessa Crone and Chanel. It's going to be Chanel. It's going to be a lot of fun and really interesting. And I love to put people together. I like to help people, and I love to connect people, and that's what that association is about, is to help people. I don't like to say, because it sounds like it's very social, but we're working on a mentorship committee, and we had events planned, but then COVID happened. So now we're unfortunately obligated to do webinars, which are great, but it's not, I think, where I would have excelled best, but you know, you have to pivot. So we're pivoting, and we promote support and education and yeah, connection. I think everybody needs connection these days. We're all really missing connection. And that's the one thing I miss the most about traveling. And I used to think I wasn't a really social or outgoing person. I always considered myself an introvert. And I realized when you took away the connection that I'm actually the complete opposite of that. And our business is so good at putting a lot of people in a room, and, you know, the personalities are what they are, but, you know, our business is emotional and passionate, and, you know, it's so much fun. And that, you know, has nothing to do with anything that I'm talking about, but it just came to mind. So I think that's, you know, I think that's it. I don't think that my being a woman really changes anything. I mean, contrary to what Ida was saying, I was laughing because she works in an office full of men and I work in an office full of women, and he's the strict minority. So we have a lot of the feminine going on here, and it's, I agree. We do things differently. I think we put ourselves, I think maybe we're more empathic when it comes to buying and selling jewelry. I would concur that when I look at a piece of jewelry, I think, would I wear this? And unfortunately, a lot of the time is yes. That, you know, colors a lot of how you buy and sell things. But, you know, I think to just reduce us to people who buy and sell stones and jewelry is limiting, because I think that we connect with our customers probably in a different way, and I couldn't say if that's good or bad, but it's definitely something that I've noticed more on the female side.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. It's again also from your side a wonderful story to listen to. Again, you know, for the audience tonight, a lot of very interesting inputs, a lot of very interesting insights. You know, the fact that you decided to first of all, you know, move out of the family business and do your own experiences. The fact that you were working with a person who was really you know, tough and allowed you to learn a lot, getting out of your comfort zone, but at the same time, you know, as also Preeta was mentioning, working hard to make it happen. And this overall feeling and idea about connecting and how much, you know, we in our industry, once again, we need to connect to each other. Your project with Glitterati about mentorship, coaching, connecting people. I think these are all very interesting elements, you know, for our panel and our conversation tonight. So thank you for sharing. I've seen already again in the chat a lot of interest. So, you know, we will have time later on, you know, maybe to go through some of the questions. So now I would like to leave the virtual floor to Linda Koslov Turner. Linda, straight from the US tonight. I know you had to wake up early to be with us tonight, and owner and president of Christine Marguerite Design, but also author of 100 Women of Jewelry. So an amazing effort, I guess, to put together, interview all these very interesting and you know, special women in the industry. So I think we are very curious to know more about how the whole project came to light, how, you know, who are the women you interviewed, of course not all the 100, but a few highlights, and in which way you will be presenting the book, which is going to be edited soon, right? So all the activities related to your initiatives. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Donatella. Thank you so much for all of my panel mates. And I am honored to be here this morning, evening for you. And I thought I would give you a little bit of background to just sort of set you up for how this book came to be. I started making jewelry in 1972. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Product and Jewelry Design, Industrial Design. I'm a product developer and designer. I have a Master of Fine Arts from CU Boulder. I taught up there in fine art photography. And I am almost done with my graduate gemologist degree through GIA. I've been making jewelry as a profession since I opened a place, you know, a location, brick and mortar, in 2005 on Pearl Street in Boulder. But essentially, I've been making jewelry for everyone else and on Pearl Street in Boulder since 1975. And all through that, I've gotten my education and continued to move forward. I was the only woman in the 70s on that street making jewelry at a bench as a bench jeweler. And I've seen a lot in my days. However, I started to notice some things as a woman as a designer in my retail industry. And I felt like one day I woke up and I just thought, you know, I don't think I'm the only woman going through this. And it really was quite like that. I just went, what's happening here? And so I am a project, you know, I'm a multiple grants recipient. I'm a project-oriented fine artist as well. Can you hear me okay? Everybody can hear me okay? And so I just saw the book in its entirety. And it came to me in a vision. And I was told to interview, and I don't know where this comes from. It's kind of art intuition. That's how a lot of projects happen for me. I needed to interview 100 women. I needed to hear their stories. and I needed to understand what was actually happening in the industry and what was my place in that industry. I felt like I maybe was a little lost, if you will. And so I did want to make sure that everyone knew this isn't a vanity publication. My work is not going to be in this book. I am the author, and as it turns out, I am the book, so I've got plenty to do with that. I also knew that I needed help, and I told my husband, I said, I need somebody to help me with this project. And I happened, and you know when everything goes right, and you're just guided by this entire situation, I was on a photo shoot with another artist, and I told my husband, I said, I think I have found the person that needs to work with me on this, because I saw the book as a fine art black and white portrait publication, but with women's stories about what their experience was in the industry. And I approached Hardy Clahold, who is the photographer for the project. He's the portrait photographer. And I said, I want to interview 100 women, and I want you to be a part of this project, and I want you to take the photos. And he's like, okay. And we were like, well, great. So we started. I started to contact the artists. And there is a very specific selection process for me. But one of the things that I wanted the book to be, and it's going to end up being 2 volumes, 1 through 50, 51 through 100. No way is all this information going to be allowed, you know, going to look good in a one book. But I want it to be informational, educational, and inspirational. But there was another key piece of my career that was missing, and that was the academic part as a curator, and as a curator of museum works. And I decided I went to see the exhibit by Jewels by Jar. And you know, in the 70s, jewelry was like, oh, that's a craft. Nobody even considered it to be a fine art. And I am now learning to disagree with that. And I saw that exhibit and I thought to myself, you know what? 100 women in one museum, their portraits, their work, and their stories. And that is how this project came to be. Now, I come from this at a completely different angle, and that is I have been in the industry my whole life. I have seen unbelievable pieces of jewelry in my career. But I started to think that I wanted to know more about who created that piece. I wanted to know more about the woman and what she went through to get to that piece. I realized that it was a lineage of concept to finished product. And I needed to know more about that because that was the position that I was in. So I started to contact different women. And I mean, I literally talk about a learning curve. I just was Google searching people. I had no idea what I was doing. But I started in Boulder, and I kind of got the feel of what this project could be. And then I ended up being blown away flat out about the stories of the women in the industry making the jewelry. I have carte blanche at Couture. They allow us to come in there, and I've started this in 2016. For like 4 years, I've been able to go in, and this is how I was getting the interviews. We were able to photograph the people and the women. I was able to see the work. And in February, I finished my 57th interview, and COVID hit. And I thought to myself, you know what? We're not going to stop here. I mean, we can't get to anybody. The shows were gone. It was definitely an obstacle. But I decided to move forward, and I started to Zoom interview. And I was able to actually extend a reach much farther across the table in terms of soliciting and getting artists into this book. And I'm about to finish my 90th interview. As it turns out, Frank Stankus contacted me. He was the husband of Cindy Edelstein, who was a giant in the industry as a counselor, as a consultant. And she unfortunately passed away in 2016. And he reached out to me. And it turns out, as he's a retired New York Times editor, and he has offered to edit the entire book. I have a group of people that are phenomenal. Everybody is putting forth, because the women are the most important piece of the entire structure, if I'm not mistaken, from my point of view. So I started to Zoom interview, and that really started to pick up the pace, because I was literally flying to the country and contacting the artist and meeting them in their studio. And that was certainly a lot of fun, but it was it was not cost effective, and it was very labor intensive. And there were a lot of what ifs in between me contacting the artist and then flying there and meeting them. And I just got really good at it. I really can just contact an artist, find out who they are, connect with them. And again, I'll reiterate that there are some specific criteria, but one of the things that I noticed, that I saw in this industry, was a lack of diversity. And I wanted to include not only diversity in the work, but also cultural diversity, and the people that were the women. And this has been one of the most fascinating key pieces to this entire project. Then, of course, I have a couple of opportunities. Nothing is set in stone yet. But at this time, Fashion Institute of Technology has offered us their museum, November 2022, 4,000 square feet in New York City, to host the entire exhibit. And so when you're doing the right thing, it all flows. Now, when I asked the women the questions, was a bit existential for me, because what I wanted to do, a lot of people say, do you ask each artist a different question? And I found out that wasn't exactly what I wanted, because what I wanted was very key information about the process. How did they get started? What were their obstacles? And the other thing is, I wanted a genuine picture. I wanted something very authentic. I didn't want what everybody saw in terms of branding. I wanted to hear the real story. And I've heard things that would absolutely break your heart. I was flat out, again, blown away by what I heard, what the woman and the women had to do to be able to stay in that industry, to be able to continue to work in their field. And that was something I consider to be very, very important. So I think my place is to curate the largest women's exhibition in the history of time, and to create a 2-volume book that tells very interesting stories. And they're kind of short. I don't want to go on and on about it. I want to, when I ask the women questions, I ask them all the same questions. But the intriguing part is that I get completely different answers. So as an educational tool, this becomes very important in terms of people learning from other people's mistakes. Do this, don't do that, sort of the do's and don'ts of the industry. So I have a little presentation, and then the second volume is going to be dedicated. The first volume will be dedicated to Cindy, and the second volume, it really became a very difficult moment when COVID hit and changed so many women's direction in their paths to this industry. But the one that stood out to me was Professor Yupati Kabkol-Bunsiri. She was the Fashion Institute Technology's jewelry instructor, and she posted her last post in March of 2020. And she had passed with COVID in April, by about April 18th. And I contacted her husband and I said, I would like to honor her life and her work by featuring her in the second volume. And he's agreed to write about that, but it's still a tender moment. So the whole thing is coming together. Frank is editing, I am transcribing, I am continuing to interview. We're set for an exhibition. However, again, it is not set in stone. And sort of everything is going my way on this project, but I can't tell you it's been easy, and I can't tell you it's not been without a lot of trial and error. And so today what I have for you is I have 10 photographs of women. One of the things that I wanted, because, you know, the world of Instagram has made things so quick. Nobody wants to read 40 pages of anything anymore. You've got to get it right there. So I ask each woman, what are their words of wisdom? And I ask for one-liners or two-liners. So today, with your permission, it's very quick. I will do 10 photographs of the women that I've selected to show you a cross-section of my interviews and the things that they have said. And I think you will find them very enjoyable. With your permission, I'll go ahead and start that slideshow. Pray for me.
No, it's gonna be fine. Just press share screen.
That is what everybody says.
There you go. It's already shared.
All right. So holy mackerel. So I go up here and I, please forgive me because my husband had me all set up and then he drove out the door. And I was just like, don't leave me. So what we want to do is give me 2 seconds, okay? I will have it for you. One moment, please. So I've got the screen sharing and then I've got, see, and I got nervous. So that's what's killing me here.
Don't worry.
All right, thank you. You know, at this point, I can't worry. All right, panel discussion, picture tools, and go to slideshow. You ready? I am.
And
so he gave me a black screen so that I wouldn't freak out. Okay.
So nice of him. Yeah.
I know. This is the cover of the book.
But
this is what I wanted. Can you see it?
No, hang on, Linda. I think you have to click once again.
Yes. Oh,
slideshow maybe.
Oh, I can see it, but you cannot. Hold on just a moment. Oh, geez, that's too bad. Hold on just a moment, please. Give me 1 second.
That's
I
okay.
do have it all ready here. I'm going to go ahead and stop share. Let me go ahead here, and I want to go to, here we go. And can you see any of that?
Share the screen maybe now. And somebody, Peggy.
If you just share the screen with us, we can see what you're doing on your screen.
Or otherwise, I have Peggy saying she can do the screen share of the layout if you would like, Linda.
Okay, I have it right here. I have my panel discussion. I have set it up as a slideshow.
Oh, and behind this picture, behind this window, do you have any other, how can I explain? Or just click on the picture, you know, we can see the title of the picture, Start Slide, Women of...
On your right-hand side.
Yeah.
Click on Start Slide.
I don't have that. So hold on just a minute. It's totally worth it, I promise.
Oh,
geez. I am screen sharing. And let's see, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go back.
Or maybe Peggy can help you because she suggested that she can share the screen for you.
Okay, that sounds good. How would we do that? Can you guide me through that?
Get out of your screen.
Yeah.
Out of my screen, stop share.
Right. And maybe Peggy
I don't know who Peggy is. But here's what I can do.
Because she says I can do a screen share of the layout if you want, Linda.
Okay, that's fine. So how do I send it to her? That's the only thing.
Unless...
Or I thought that she had the presentation, sorry.
Yeah, so did I.
You know...
so why don't we do like that, Linda? Maybe since we have a few questions from the audience, I will maybe start answering back to some of the questions, and maybe
that sounds good. That sounds perfect.
An email, and I will be sharing the screen, or to me or to Denise, and we share the screen.
That sounds fine.
Okay, so
send me your pictures, and I will do the sharing for you.
Is this Denise?
Yes, it's me. You have my email.
Yes, I do.
Send you an email right now if you want.
Okay, I've actually got your email right up here.
Perfect.
And so I'll go ahead and I'll send that to you. Thank you.
Yeah, and we can share it. And while Denise receives the documents and we can share them, well, already for you, I mean, I leave you 1 second, Linda, for the question, because I have a question for you. I have a question already. I mean, a lot of interest, ladies, you know, all your presentation were super, super interesting for the audience. I could see a lot of nice comments and so on. I have a question. Sophia would like to know, I mean, first of all, she thanks for the amazing presentation, and she would like to know, what do you wish you wouldn't known at the start of your career you now know? So somehow, I guess, you know, what are the things that you needed to know when you started and that you now handle? So who would like to answer to Sophia? I mean, feel free to answer back. Who would like from the panel to answer?
I think I can take a go at it.
Yeah, thank you.
She's asking, what do you wish you'd known at the start of your career that you know now? Well, I think how hard is it to make money and how easy is it to make money? Both the things. Because in our industry, people think because it's a jewelry industry, and you know, and this is the same perception for everybody in the jewelry industry, regardless of if you're a jeweler or if you're not. People just think because they're jewelers, they make loads of money, right? And but that's not the case. So, and I am not even a jeweler. I'm in the service industry. So it's at times, initially it was very hard, and then I realized that if I work hard, I can do all kinds of projects. So it's just, you know, if I'd known it earlier, I would have played my cards well.
Thank you, Preeta. That's an interesting way to put it. Any other inputs from the other panelists to this question? Melissa, Ida, Sonia, would you like also to give a few advices to Sophia?
I would say that the one thing I wish I knew before, that I'm starting only to know now, you know, it's not every day that I remember, is that it's not personal. It's never personal. That we focus so much attention because we work in such an emotional industry. You know, you're dealing with things that, as Ida said, with instinct, you're dealing with emotion, you're dealing with beauty and large sums of money. I think it's only fair and logical that we become emotional, and we're also passionate ourselves about what we do. I have a tendency myself to forget that everybody else has as much going on in their head as I do. And most people's behavior and reactions and comments are, you know, you never know what's going on in someone's life. And I think that I wish I had learned that much younger. It would have saved me a lot of this.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Melissa. And since you are on the spot, I've seen also in the chat a lot of interest about the Glitterati program. I've seen that you put on the chat the Instagram account. People would also like to get information on the mentorship committee. Maybe you would like just to share a few words about that.
Well, I'll be presenting our mentorship committee in our next newsletter, which is at the end of mid-December, sorry, before Christmas. And if people would like to receive the newsletter, they can go on our website and sign up in the events portion. You can just put yourself on our mailing list and it will automatically get you to receive the newsletter. And there will be a presentation. It's, God, off the top of my head, I can't remember. Really great women, all of whom I know very well, in all different walks of life, antique jewelry, diamonds, estate jewelry, colored, I mean, everything. So the goal is to put people who feel like they need mentorship with the appropriate mentor and for them to work together however they decide is the best way for them. There's no, nothing's written in stone, it's very flexible, and that's it.
Great. That's perfect. Thank you. And I'm sure many people will subscribe to your newsletter. I have another question just popped up. It's from Fabienne. She says she has a question about the tracing of diamonds, especially the ones coming from India. She feels like this is still kind of a dark area. How do you get the origin, the certification? So I don't know whether maybe Preeta, you would like to answer, Sonia, Melissa, just, a few insights. I know, the time is kind of running, but just a few hints, and then maybe this can open up to a topic for our next webinar.
I think traceability is a separate webinar.
Yeah, I totally, yeah, absolutely. So maybe Fabienne, we will organize another webinar on this topic. So stay tuned for the next. And also, this is also related to a question that we had at the beginning of our talks about, natural diamonds, synthetic diamonds, laboratory grown diamonds. So maybe, this is another interesting topic that we can develop further.
Sorry, I'm just going to chip in based on Fabienne's question and the bigger issue of lab grown and natural diamonds. I'm coming with my little Rappaport hat here. No, I feel this is such an essential question, and the fact that so many people within our industry, we're still questioning traceability, provenance, where is the whole pipeline, is the pipeline transparent? So imagine if we ourselves not 100% sure, imagine the end consumer, imagine the people that we're trying to sell this diamond dream to, that actually we know ourselves, and there's so much progress. I mean, I've been in industry for a few years, but I see so many industries that's, as you said, much bigger subject that needs, not just 2 minutes. But I think this is such an important issue, and there's something that is going to make or break the industry if we're able not to have dark areas, not to have spots of shadows and shades, and something that is not completely, I'm going to use the word kosher, but I think we all understand what I mean by that. So yeah, I think Fabienne's question is so important, but it requires a big, deep conversation and also a deep look at ourselves as an industry.
Thank you, Sonia. This is so true what you're sharing, and it's really, a milestone, I think, in terms of communication, in our industry. So, hopefully this is, again, a topic that we can develop all together in our next rendezvous around this virtual screen. I think, could we solve the issue about the images from Linda? Denise, were you able to, you have them so we could share them? Yeah. So maybe we can share these images. I And you know, I have to say that again, there is a lot of interest also about Linda's book. Linda, I hope that we can all join you in New York next year for the opening of the exhibition. And I leave the floor to Denise. By the way, I would like to thank Denise. I didn't introduce you at the beginning of the panel, but behind the scenes, we also have Denise, who has been helping me in putting together the webinar tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
great and precious Denise.
great and precious Denise. Yes.
Well,
Today I am grateful for Denise.
so I have almost all the pictures. Only one is missing, is the 10th picture actually. But I will start to show the first one, right? And by the time, if you can send the 10th picture, it's up to you.
Oh, I thought I had everybody in there. I sent you a second email, so just show what you have. I'm sure we'll be fine.
Right, and while Denise prepares, I think it's very nice also to hear, you know, witnesses like Peggy saying, as a total outsider of this industry, what I'm seeing, hearing is that women are finally taking our place in the jewelry industry as well as in the entire world. We always saw ourselves in relation to men and we're defined by the patriarchal view of who we are, but what we want was not the main event. Jewelry was dictated and defined by men. So listening to everyone tonight, she sees finally spreading our wings of jewelry. I love that, wings of jewelry and everything else. And she's very, you know, happy and excited about that. So thank you. And here we go. So
yay. Thank you so much, Denise. I'm sorry I didn't send it to you earlier. Thanksgiving in a webinar is a little bit of a trick.
You're right, because we have to do the cooking afterwards.
Well, I'm cooking right now, so we're, you know, this is the epitome of multitasking. So this is the cover of the book. This is the reason I provided this for you is because I wanted you to see all these. This was designed by Peggy Sands here in Boulder, and I wanted you to see that the character of this book is to show very, very strong women. This is Jessica Kagan Cushman. As you can see, the portraits are done by Hardy. It's edited by Frank Stankus. But Jessica's words of wisdom were never, ever, 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 ever give up. And she has a story to tell, I promise you. So we can go on to the next one, Denise.
All right. So,
thank you.
So the next one is...
Oh, it doesn't matter at this point. Just know that I've done everything in alphabetical order. So these magnificent portraits are done by Hardy. And this is what I wanted. Strong, absolutely piercing portraits of these women. Ariana Boussard-Riefel, she says this. She says, there is room at the top for everyone. And really, there is no top.
Right.
I'm telling you, these one-liners are the best. And we could just go on to the next one, Denise, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Oh,
this is so great.
Wait.
I practiced this about 10 times, by the way. This is Marcia Boudet. She is from Puerto Rico. And I love what she said, and you can see it in her face. No apologies for being you. And I think that's the whole idea of always and constantly apologizing for whatever it is you're doing, standing in the way or whatever. But I also wanted you to see the range of people that I've selected, and this was just... The next one is, this is Sylvia Fromanovich. And she says, I'm going to do what I believe. Turn it around. I mean, it's just, they're so profound what these women are saying. It's just incredible. No woman should ever be ashamed of her success. Sata Maturi, I loved what she said. Dream without fear. Oh, is that fabulous? And I'm praying. There's one more. Alexandra Moore said, give yourself permission. You don't always have to wait for anyone. You must, however, always be kind. I love that one. Bayang Q, she said, be proud of the work you have put in. Keep up your training and your education and push the limits of whatever you do. Via Tambelli, gotta be one of my favorites. The ultimate rebellion is to be lovely.
And she is a great rebellion, right, Bia?
People to, if you want to keep updated, please follow us on Instagram at Women of Jewelry, because I keep putting up who I'm going to interview next. If you'd like to sign up for updates, please, on our email list, www.womenofjewelry.com. That's on the front page of our website. But also, I'm looking for candidates for the 10 remaining interviews. I do have most everybody, but you can also email me at linda@womenofjewelry. So thank you very much for everything today.
Yes, Linda, actually, just to finish with the, all the comments, somebody sent in the chat, maybe you haven't read it, but
I
she's
haven't.
interested to hear about your project. And before you start the 91st interview, she wants to connect with you. So she sent me her email and the telephone number. So I will send you everything by email.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. And I really enjoyed this. Everybody is so brilliant and so insightful. And everything here is so meaningful. And right now is our time. I must tell you that. It just feels it. It's our time.
That's great. I mean, that's great. Thank you. And I also would like to share another comment that it's appearing on the chat from Agatha Luxury. Poetic business, riser, reveal, structure, and preserve. She says, fabulous panel of ladies with very different profiles, with the common element of beautiful, emotional fragility and strong determination. Isn't this us, right? Bravo. Thank you very much for this authentic sharing. You gave me further confirmation about my intention to coach women CEOs, entrepreneurs. So thank you, you know, for this comment.
Donatella?
Oui?
There is another question, maybe it's interesting for Prita. Fabienne has a question about the tracing of diamonds, especially the ones coming from India. I quote, I feel like this is still kind of a dark area. How do you get the origin certification, etc.? So just
yeah, thank you, Denise. I think we kind of answered. I mean, I think this is going to be, as we mentioned, you know, a topic for a next webinar. And Sonia was answering, you know, to say that it's an urgent need, you know, to do some clarification there. But again, the topic is so vast and needs so much, you know, thinking that most probably this could be one of our next topics in January for next year. So that's great. So, I mean, what do I have to say? Thank you so much. I mean, I learned so much from all of you tonight. Thank you for being part of this panel. Really, from my heart, I want to thank you, because even though I know all of you, tonight I've been learning so much from all of you, and I feel very proud to be, you know, close to you, to be part of your community. We have here another message, you know, from Stefania. Thank you very much for a beautiful and authentic webinar. I think, you know, tonight we were all able to express, you know, who we are, all the steps we had to go through to make it happen, you know, how authentic we are, but at the same time, I guess, how determined and how stubborn we can be in making it happen, getting out of our, you know, control area, you know, how much we've been using our intuition, our instinct, but at the same time, how hard we've been working through and the way, you know, we wanted to make it happen. So really, really thank you to all my wonderful lady panelists tonight. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom, all your knowledge, all your expertise and experience. I think we are breaking, you know, a new ground tonight with our community, all with our passion for jewelry, our, you know, love for what we do. And then again, you know, I see all comments popping up. I feel so happy about what we could achieve and accomplish all together tonight. Maria says, you know, wonderful, warm and inspiring experience. Because I think, again, you know, you all shared who you are and what you did to make it happen. So wonderful discussion. I've been thoroughly enjoyed the webinar. I hope to attend many more. Women supporting women. So wonderful message. So I don't know if any of you would like to share a few words before we end up. But for me, you know, I so happy, really, thank you.
Thanks Donatella and CREA for making it happen, for creating a space for us to be able to share this, because I think that's so important to have these spaces to be able to have these conversations. And so thank you very much to Donatella and CREA for this beautiful evening.
Thank you, Sonia, and really
thanks Denise for facilitating as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And
thank you, Donatella. Just thank you.
Okay.
Just thank
you. Right. And then also, you know, thank you for being with us, you know, Geneva, Milano, internationally based, and you know, also from the audience, so many people from around the world. So thank you, and really wish you a very nice evening, a very nice day ahead for Linda, and
thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving also.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for all of you.
Thank you, and yeah, and I think we were really able tonight to share with all our audience, you know, positive energy, and as yeah, Agatha Luxury says, you know, again, collective inspiration. So really thank you very much.